Okay, I think this is my favorite game on the week, at least in terms of fantasy output, because it's pretty easy to talk about who we're going to start in this one. We got the Vikings and the Seahawks. This one is in Seattle, 4-0 Seahawks versus the 1-3 Vikings. Seattle Seahawks have had one of the more prolific offenses on the year, whereas the Vikings defense has been terrible. On the flip side, the Vikings offense hasn't been the greatest, but Dalvin Cook has been fantastic, and they've been getting things together in the passing game over the past couple weeks, and the Seattle Seahawks defense has been terrible as well. So it should be a really good fantasy game. We've got a 57-point over-under. Seahawks are favored to win this one by 7. When we look at defenses here, the Vikings have been average against quarterbacks, giving up the 12th most to running backs and the 4th most to receivers. But the Seahawks, not to be outdone, are giving up the most points to receivers and the 2nd most points to opposing quarterbacks. They've been decent at stopping running backs. I'm not sure whether that's more of a product of the fact that they've always been leading and the other team has had to abandon the run, or necessarily what that is, but I'm not nervous about starting Dalvin Cook for what it's worth. So that being said, this is going to be a really good game for fantasy. Fingers crossed that it actually turns into a shootout. I think it will. I think the Vikings can actually hang with the Seahawks, although I don't project them to win. That being said, we're starting Dalvin Cook, we're starting Adam Thielen, and definitely going to give you the nod to start Justin Jefferson after 2 straight weeks of good performances on the real football field. Definitely someone that you want to be starting in your fantasy lineups. You could talk me into starting Kirk Cousins, but his potential to melt down is definitely something that I'm nervous about. So maybe there's a better option out there for you. And then Alexander Mattison did end up getting into the end zone last week, but I'm not going to be chasing touchdowns at this point. He's an emergency what the heck flex, not someone I'm jamming into my lineup unless I have to. Not starting the tight ends here. Definitely not starting either defense on either side. This is going to be a high-scoring game. You don't want defenses here. On the Seahawks side, it's easy. We're starting Russell Wilson. We're starting Chris Carson. We're starting DK Metcalf. We're starting Tyler Lockett. Maybe the question then becomes, do you start any of the tight ends here? You could start Greg Olsen if you want to. He hasn't been involved enough to really show that consistency. So if you have a better option, someone that you think has a better chance at actually going and scoring, I just don't know what we can expect from Olsen on a week-by-week basis. And that's pretty much it. I'm not starting Travis Homer. He got the touchdown last week, but Chris Carson was heavily involved. We'll see what Carlos Hyde ends up looking like this week. He was inactive last week, healthy scratch. So maybe that's their vote of confidence that Chris Carson is fully back to health after recovering from that hip injury. So we'll see if Chris Carson continues playing the way that he has. Then he was definitely undervalued and should have been drafted higher than he was. But at this point, it's pretty easy who you're starting in this one. Don't talk yourself out of this. You want to play players in this game. Both of these defenses are terrible against the pass, and you want to see this turn into a shootout, and I think it will. Overall, I have the Seahawks winning this one pretty decisively. I have the Seahawks winning 35-27 for Minnesota.